It is safe to say that Lance Stroll is the most disliked driver on the F1 grid. He gets loads of hate from Formula 1 fans because of the fact that he got into Formula 1 because of his money rather than his performances. Stroll's 3 years in the sport haven't been spectacular, but at the same time, he hasn't exactly been terrible. But this hasn't stopped people from dubbing Stroll by far the worst driver on the F1 grid, and there really is just a lot of hate and dislike towards Stroll in general. So in this video, I'm going to talk about why I think a lot of the hate and negativity towards Stroll is completely unjustified, and why he actually is a much better driver than a lot of people make him out to be. Like I said, the main reason why Stroll is so disliked is because he is a pay driver. And if you don't already know, if you're a pay driver, you're basically paying the team to drive for them and give them sort of more cash for their, their operations and development, rather than the team paying you to drive for them. So it's basically like kind of a reverse. And pay drivers are usually unpopular because they usually don't have enough talent to have earned the seat on merit, and they're taking up a seat which other drivers who actually have a lot more talent than them could be driving in. And Lance Stroll's father, Lance Stroll, who actually is a billionaire, reportedly spent $80 million to get Stroll into Williams for 2017. There have been lots of paid drivers in Formula 1, and it can be quite helpful if you're a midfield team that needs a slight increase in budget. You can get this from a decent driver, not great, a decent driver with lots of financial backing to give you some more money, and this is basically what Stroll is. And many successful drivers in Formula 1 started out as paid drivers. For example, three-time world champion Niki Lauda, he bought his seat at BRM. That's how he got started in the sport. And also Sergio Perez, Stroll's teammate, he is also a paid driver, in fact. So I don't really see why you should hate on Stroll for being a paid driver. Many other drivers do this, and it's just a common thing in motorsports. I mean, it's expensive for the drivers, expensive for the teams, so there really is no reason. There's really not much of a bad thing for Stroll being a paid driver. But what really pissed a lot of people off is when Esteban Ocon lost his seat at Force India and was out of a drive actually for the 2019 season to make way for Stroll coming into the team. And Esteban Ocon, he is basically the opposite of Lance Stroll. He came from quite humble beginnings. He was in a working class family, and his story is pretty much similar to Lewis Hamilton. He didn't have a lot of money. He didn't come from a rich family like a lot of the grid does nowadays. And yeah, he is someone who definitely has a lot of talent, had a really good junior career, and pretty much 100% deserves his seat, earned it on merit, and he was replaced, by this rich kid that's only at the team because his daddy owns it. This outraged many people, which is completely understandable, but you have to acknowledge the fact that if Lawrence Stroll hadn't bought Force India, turned it into Racing Point, and now Aston Martin, then not only would Esteban Ocon be out of a seat for 2019, but Force India would have collapsed altogether and wouldn't even be on the grid. And having a Formula 1 team on a grid, a midfield team, a really quality team that has added a lot to the sport, in fact, is definitely worth just one driver being out of a drive for only 1 year and actually is back with a manufacturer team in Renault. So there really is no reason to hate on Lance Stroll just because he has money. But now let's look at Lance Stroll, the driver. How good is he? Is he really even any good? And what is his potential? How good can he eventually get when he's at the peak of his career? Stroll does have quite an accomplished junior career with lots of success in karting and being signed to the Ferrari Young Driver Academy in 2010 before making his debut in cars. He eventually became Italian F4 champion in 2015 before becoming European Formula 3 champion in 2016. So he does have a lot of success. He's won a lot of series, and there is no denying that he does have talent. And then in 2017, he secured the seat at Williams to partner Massa in what would be his rookie season. And I think that, Stroll, I think he went into F1 a little bit too early. He was only 18 years old, and I think he could have done, with a season in Formula 3 or maybe even Formula 2. I think that would have helped quite a lot. It definitely took Stroll a while to settle into F1. I remember in his first few races, he was involved in quite a few incidents, but eventually he started to find his footing, and he actually got some really impressive results throughout the season, including a podium in Baku and also qualifying fourth in a really wet, chaotic qualifying in the Italian Grand Prix, eventually starting on the front row actually alongside Lewis Hamilton due to the Red Bull drivers having grid penalties. So as the season went on, Stroll definitely did improve. The impressive results showed that there was talent, there was potential, and yes, he was outperformed by his teammate Felipe Massa, but let's not forget that he had over a decade of experience before going to Williams, and in the end, the difference in the championship was actually only 3 points. So when you look at it, I think that Stroll definitely did have a decent 2017 rookie season. I don't think there's much to say about the 2018 season. I mean, Williams was just on a downward spiral. They were pretty much at the back, not really anyone to race, not to compare. I mean, Stroll did, I guess, narrowly beat Sergei Sorokin, but there really was not that much you could conclude from that season. So the 2019 season was where it got interesting. Obviously, there was a lot of controversy surrounding Stroll, with him entering the seat at the expense of Ocon. And obviously, his position at Aston Martin, it's not called Aston Martin, it is secure because of his dad's ownership with the team, but this also comes with a bit of pressure, and I think that it was important that in the 2019 season, he performed well to show that he had talent and remove that pay driver label. 2019 was kind of underwhelming for Stroll. He did show improvement in some areas, obviously with his main strength being his really good race pace, and he's just been a bit more consistent, staying out of incidents mostly. But I think we all know that the glaring weakness in that season was qualifying. I mean, he was horrendous in qualifying, probably the second worst qualifier after Robert Kubica. He got whitewashed by Perez 18-3. I mean, even if you're the biggest Stroll fanboy in the world, you cannot ignore that stat line. But if Stroll can get his qualifying from, below average to at least average, then we're looking at a pretty complete driver. I mean, like I said, he is one of the best starters on the grid, gaining an average of 2 positions on the first lap per race, which is the most out of all the drivers on the grid in the 2019 season. We've seen that his race pace is solid, definitely above average. He's a good wet weather driver, getting some really good results in wet races. So if you add a decent qualifying, so you actually qualify where the car is actually capable of, then Stroll can be a pretty good, a driver in the upper midfield. It is easier said than done. I mean, this magical qualifying pace won't come out of nowhere, but we do have to remember that Stroll does have time on his side. Despite it being his 4th year in F1 this upcoming season, he actually still is only 21 years old and is actually the 2nd youngest driver on the F1 grid. So he definitely does have time to improve and mature as a driver. And, 5-10 years, if he's still on the grid, then we could be looking at a pretty decent driver who isn't only in the sport because of his money, actually there because of his talent, and he's giving the team the results they want. Stroll isn't world championship material, and he probably will never be, but let's stop saying that he's the worst driver in Formula 1, because he's not. He's not just, a memeable pay driver like Raikkonen or Nissany. He's actually a driver that I think that if he improves over the next few years, that he's a driver that can be in F1 because he delivers the performances, not just the money. I genuinely believe that. I don't think Stroll exactly needs to put in a Herculean performance in 2020. I don't think he exactly has to beat Perez. I think that's quite a bit to ask. But I think that he needs to maintain all of the strengths he showed in the 2019 season. His improved maturity, consistency, race pace, race starts. He needs all of that for 2019, but he needs the qualifying. I mean, you can't be exiting in Q1 in of Racing Points. That is just unacceptable. Can't be getting beaten 18-3. I mean, you don't have to be the best, you don't have to be a Lewis Hamilton qualifier. You don't have to be that, but you need to be able to at least hold your own so you're in a decent position, 11th, 12th, close to the points, and your race pace, you have good race pace, you can get into the points, get a good points finish. You can't get so in the back foot for the race. You can't rely on your race pace that much. He definitely needs to improve his qualifying. So Lance, I hope you're watching this video and you work on your 1 lap pace, because man, you really need to. If over the next few years Lance Stroll can work on his weaknesses and continue to build on his strengths, I think that in 5 years' time we can see a pretty solid midfield driver who is in Formula 1 because of his performances, not only because of his money. I really think that Lance Stroll is capable of that. He definitely is not the worst driver in F1. He doesn't deserve all the hate that he's getting right now. But guys, that is going to do it for this video on Lance Stroll. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel, Kids Love F1. I recently hit 200 subscribers. I mean, I am absolutely ecstatic with that. Can we hit by 1,000 by the end of the year? Unlikely, but it is a goal. Let's see if we can do it. I'll definitely upload a lot more content as we edge closer to the start of the season. So if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my videos between now and the start of the season. I will see you guys in the next video with my 2020 actually predictions coming up very soon. So yeah, lots more great content coming, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.